The woman in the coat had no name in the lower districts. Down here she was a shadow glimpsed between lantern flickers, a figure who never bought bread or took shelter under the awnings when the acid rain fell. Some swore she was Crown enforcement in plain clothes. Others thought her a bored aristocrat with strange tastes in company. A few whispered she was something worse. A collector. One of the quiet predators who hunted the rarest things. Not gold, not jewels, but genius itself. Her name, in the records that mattered, was Director Celine Arcanum. And Celine was not a woman who left things to whispers. The pipe arrived in her hands 2 days after Mira sold it. It came carefully wrapped in stained linen, inside a wooden crate, escorted by a courier who had sweated through his jacket though the air was cold. Celine dismissed him with a single nod, then shut her office door. Her office was a library of glass and shadow in one of Zeta Prime's middle towers, a place that pretended not to look down on the world but always did. The walls were lined with holoscreens paused mid-thought, maps of freight routes, schematics of engines half complete, diagrams of phased doors and energy grids. A porcelain cup of untouched coffee cooled on her desk. Celine unwrapped the object with slow hands. The cylinder gleamed under the sterile light, smooth, flawless, unnervingly perfect. She lifted it. It floated an inch above her palms, weightless yet full of presence, humming like a held breath. For a long moment, Celine simply stared. "Voss," she whispered. She placed it carefully on the diagnostic table. The table was a Crown investment, an intelligence in its own right, capable of analyzing atomic patterns, energy flows, and mathematical constructs. It blinked awake under her touch, light running across its surface like quicksilver. The readout formed in the air, unknown device. Composition, alloy unclassified. Internal structure, non-Euclidean. Power source, none detected. Status, active. Function, pattern anomaly detected. Celine's mouth tightened. "Speak clearly." The table responded in its soft machine voice, devices functioning as a phase generator, stability at 100%, no known energy input. Celine leaned closer. Her reflection trembled on the cylinder's mirror-like surface. "Impossible," she murmured. Because it was. She knew this design. She had seen it before, years ago, in a secured lab where men and women with brilliant, frightened eyes worked under Professor Cale Voss's direction. The device was theoretical then, an equation scrawled across 100 glass walls and still unsolved. The phase generator was supposed to rewrite physics at a molecular level, open doors through reality without tearing it. Voss had called it the bridge between thought and place. But it had failed. Always failed. The equations broke themselves, collapsing into paradox, the mathematics devouring their own solutions like snakes swallowing tails. Voss abandoned the work. Rumour said he burned the prototypes himself before he vanished. And yet here it was, floating, perfect, real. Celine sat back in her chair and steepled her fingers. The city's lights glimmered beyond her window, refracted through mist and glass. If this was real, if the device was functional, if Voss had solved his impossible equation, then where was he? Was he alive, hiding, mocking the Crown with toys smuggled into black market stalls? Or was this something worse? A message? Celine ordered a sweep. The market reacted the way a pond reacts to a stone, ripples that looked like gossip, whispers that didn't reach their intended ears, eyes that lingered too long. At first, only a few vendors knew. A woman named Tara, who sold scrap metal and paid street boys to bring her rumours, had been the first to notice. "Thing floated," she said quietly over tea to her friend who sold lamps. "Didn't see it myself, but Olin swears, paid for it in silver, real silver." "Floating without a core, without current?" the lamp vendor whispered, incredulous. "Like a feather," Tara said it hummed like a cat. The lamp vendor passed the story to a spice seller. The spice seller murmured it to a glassblower. By dusk, a courier whispered it into the ear of a district informant, and by morning, Celine's people had the name of the stall, the vendor who sold it, and a vague description of the girl who brought it. But the market is a slippery beast. When Celine herself visited, clad in a plain coat and soft boots, no one admitted to remembering the ragpicker girl's face. "Little thing," said Kinu, the sharp-eyed dealer. He didn't flinch under Celine's gaze. Few men dared. "Bag full of junk most days. Nothing you'd want unless you like buying yesterday." And that day? Celine's voice was calm but heavy. That day she brought something no one could name. Keanu leaned forward, elbows on his table. I thought Tara'd faint when she saw it float. Me, I didn't blink. It wasn't magic, just too clean. Scared her enough, she doubled her price. Where did the girl get it? Keanu shrugged, said she picked it. Celine's lips curved, not in amusement but in thought. She picked perfection out of the dirt. That's what she said. Celine reached into her coat and produced a small case. Inside were 2 neat stacks of Crown-issue credits. She slid one across the table. Keanu didn't touch it. I'm not selling her name, he said. Who said anything about names? Celine replied, her eyes soft but dangerous. I'm buying silence. Keanu grinned faintly. Silence comes cheap. What costs more is a warning. And that is? Careful what ghosts you chase, Keanu said. The city loves to eat people who go looking for its heart. Celine tucked the second stack of credits back into her coat. That's not a warning, she said, standing. That's a dare. For the next week, Celine worked like a spider weaving silk, quietly, invisibly, with patience sharper than knives. Her agents moved through the markets and alleys, drinking in rumours, trading coins for whispers. Street urchins were paid to watch rooftops, beggars were bribed to listen to stray words. And all the while, the floating device sat in her office, humming softly, its glow brightening and dimming with no discernible pattern. Engineers and scientists studied it, tested it, cursed it. The diagnostics were clear. It was flawless. A phase generator without energy source, wires or fuel, functioning as if reality itself bent to its design. One engineer, a man with shaky hands and a head full of formulas, muttered, "If this exists, then whoever built it knows mathematics no one else has seen. This is—" He trailed off. Celine finished for him, a ghost returning. The Crown's higher offices demanded updates, but Celine stalled them. She didn't want to alert too many minds at once. She had learned long ago that genius hid best when frightened, and if Voss had built this— No, it didn't feel like him. There was something raw about the device. Not careless, but untamed, as though it had been imagined by someone who didn't care for rules or processes, someone who saw it whole first and only afterward thought about how it fit into the world. Voss was many things, but he was methodical. This felt different. In the market, whispers grew louder. Vendors told stories in low tones. They say it floated higher when no one touched it. They say it glowed in the dark, brighter than a torch. A device like that? The Crown will pay a fortune. Or kill for it. Mira heard some of these whispers while scavenging, though no one looked directly at her. She tugged her cap lower over her hair. The market felt heavier, as if the stones themselves remembered the day she'd laid the cylinder on that table. Cale noticed her unease that evening. "You're jumpy," he said, soldering a circuit board without looking up. "People are talking about something I sold." Cale's hand slipped, solder sizzled. He swore softly. "What kind of talk?" "Floating, glowing, expensive talk." Cale's shoulders stiffened. And nothing," Mira said. "They don't know it was me." He set the board down and finally looked at her. His eyes were too sharp for comfort. "They don't need to know. The city isn't stupid, Mira. It doesn't care about names. It cares about patterns, and you're starting to look like one." That night, Celine sat alone in her tower office, studying the device. She turned off all the lights, leaving only its soft glow to illuminate the room. She whispered to herself, not for anyone to hear, "Are you taunting me, Voss, or have you finally decided to answer?" The cylinder floated higher, humming like laughter. Celine leaned back in her chair, her mind working faster than the city's pulse. Either Cale Voss was alive and close, or someone else was wielding his genius. A thought flickered through her mind, unbidden and absurd. What if it wasn't him at all? Meanwhile, Mira slept in the workshop, dreaming again. The machines in her dreams were larger now, less like pieces and more like systems. A lattice of silver ribs floated above her head, rearranging itself whenever she blinked. She reached for it, and the structure twisted around her hand, moulding to her palm like clay warmed by fire. She woke to find her pillow empty this time. No gifts, no proof of the dream, but her skin buzzed faintly, as if electricity had kissed her fingers. She turned her hand over in the dim light. Her palm glimmered briefly like the after-image of a lightning strike. For the next week, Celine's quiet search intensified. She visited the market every evening, never speaking of the device, but always watching faces. Her agents found nothing, only the same story repeated like a chant. A girl sold it, a rag picker, thin, silent. Zeta Prime had thousands of girls like that. Celine almost admired it, the city's way of protecting its own mysteries. Still, the floating cylinder sat on her desk every night, humming louder as if mocking her failure. On the 7th night, she stood by her window, looking down at the glowing veins of the city. The mist clung to neon signs, refracting them into a galaxy of colours. Somewhere down there, someone had solved Voss's impossible equation, not on paper, but in instinct. Celine turned to the device and whispered, "Where is he hiding you?" The cylinder pulsed softly. For the first time in years, Celine felt the faint chill of being outsmarted.